Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Merchant Stage. My name's Andrew Rowson, and I am going to be your host for this session with ShipStation, where we're going to be talking about scaling your business with seamless fulfillment and shipping. I'm going to introduce your presenter for this session, Claire. This session is sponsored by Ecom Motors. Ecom Motors is a full end-to-end solution as a collaboration with Emotive and Volo, helping merchants scale and grow on multi-channel. Just a bit of housekeeping to let you know is please ask questions throughout the session. This is a session for you to get what you want out of it. So please ask questions. And we will have the networking tables after the session that you can ask questions, or if you think of something after the presentation, please make use of that. That leaves me to introduce our host, our presenter for today, and it is Claire Milligan. She is the UK account manager for new business for ShipStation. I'm sure you all know what ShipStation is about. But for those who don't, ShipStation is an awesome shipping management platform that integrates to a number of other platforms, so you can do all of this in one place. They have got some exciting things going on around fulfillment as well. So they have an awesome amount of people both on the US and in Europe that use their technology to power their business. Claire has been working in a sales capacity within ShipStation for 3 years. Previous to that, she's been working with Amazon. She's now leading the sales team with ShipStation for the UK, and she has an awesome amount of e-commerce and fulfillment knowledge behind her as well. So she's really well placed to answer any of the questions you've got around e-commerce, fulfillment, and ShipStation's technology as well. So that leads me to hand over to Claire and let you inform the rest of the team about ShipStation, your presentation. So thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the introduction. So yeah, just to follow on, so I'm Claire Milligan. I'm a UK new business manager for ShipStation. Previous to this, as you mentioned, I was at Amazon. However, I will be moving to a new role within ShipStation very shortly, which is European Carrier Partner Manager, looking after the carriers that we integrate with. And I'll explain a little bit more about the platform, what we do. And here today really is just about understanding scaling your business with seamless fulfillment and shipping. How this market has changed within recent times. I'm sure you're all aware that, you know, with the lockdowns, there's been a lot of change to the way that these businesses need to work now, and you're probably seeing that yourself in terms of if you're having to manage your warehouse, you know, you have social distancing to consider. You maybe not being going to be able to throw people in a position to manage more orders, moving your business online. How does that work? You know, how do you manage to scale efficiently when you're having to spend time figuring out how you're actually going to pack and send all these items out? So that is where ShipStation comes in, and that's what we're going to talk about a bit today. So the agenda for today is just to discuss some of the growth that we've seen within the e-commerce industry. There's no secret that it's a massively expanding market, and that's definitely been pushed along by recent times. Just the way that businesses are having to think about things, and even the types of businesses that are going online now. I mean, we have a number of different clients that have been, for example, restaurants where they can't be open. You've got cocktail making classes for bars and restaurants that previously weren't able or not doing virtual events like they have been recently. So it's an ever-changing market in terms of how differently you need to think about this. And then there's click and collect, where people can't collect in stores, alongside an already booming trade of trying to move away from bricks and mortar and into warehousing. So I'll be telling you a little bit about ShipStation, how it works, and I'm actually going to take you through one of the customers that we work very closely with and their story. And like you said before, if there is any questions that you do have as we go through, happy to stop and answer them. If there's something that I'm going to be addressing later on in the slides, then I will, of course, come back to them at the end. So just to cover off the rapid growth in the e-commerce market, this has been a rapidly changing environment. So 17.3% up to 20.3% in the first quarter of 2018. That is now just skyrocketed really with the events that happened in 2020, which I'm very aware of, I'm sure, and sick of hearing about now. But the rise to 31.3% between that first and second quarters, changing the way businesses have to work. Shopify was one of the major winners of this environment. We have a very close partnership with them. I'll go into some of the environments that we actually connect with and how it all works. And if there's anything that or any particular platforms that you may be interested in understanding more about, we partner with a lot of them. So we'll be able to assist hopefully at a later stage. Also, to cover off Amazon, a previous Amazon employee, their orders soaring by 51% in their retail businesses. So it just pushes the fact that customers are needing convenience. There is no secret that the Prime services, etc., that they offer is something that customers are looking for. So having convenience, not being able to leave the home, and just encouraging customers to think about the way that we now shop, which is not going to change anytime soon. So look forward to speaking some more about that. Just to cover off a little bit about ShipStation. So we have been up and running since 2009. We are a US-based business. So US originally, currently in US, Canada, we're in Australia, UK, and launching in France just recently. So looking to expand those European networks that we currently build with. So the reason for being in these countries is because it means that we can offer a platform that you can actually scale globally. So if you think about the logistics of how it works, you would have your country and you'd have all your inventory based in one location. And therefore, you would need to work with carriers who are going to be able to move that. So ShipStation is a software that manages your orders and helps you get your orders in a streamlined fashion in a very automated way to the end customer. But there still has to be some logistics that fit in between that. So we'll go into that a little bit more and I'll explain some more. But just covering off a little bit about our background. So 2014, we were acquired by Stamps. Stamps is a provider who basically was given the licensing to be able to sell internet postage for the first time. So we have relationships with the United Postal Service. So this was a real game changer in terms of actually being able to create postage label as I move away from stamps in an online fashion. We are not just the only company within the Stamps umbrella. We also have MetaPack, a sister company of ours. We have Shipping Easy, Ship Engine, and ShipStation, who will fall underneath that. Each business works in slightly different fashion and aims at a different market. So but ShipStation is our SMB sector. It works very well from the new business right the way up to an enterprise customer, and it just allows you to fully automate your orders. So we have since then moved into the UK for the first time in 2018, Australia as well. So we, as a carrier services that we link into in Australia, we have Australia Post, and they are building their presence over there. And in 2018 was the first employee into the UK, where we've been running since then and growing massively, and obviously with 2021 launching in France. So looking forward to seeing where this goes. But yeah, so far it's been pretty rapid. So what is ShipStation? So our ShipStation's mottos is to basically look at wherever you sell, however you deliver, we are exceptionally efficient. So what does that mean for you? So as a customer, you would need to be able to get your orders in from multiple different selling channels potentially. We have online marketplaces that you may link into. So you've got Amazon, you have eBay. There are different selling channels where you have your own website, Shopify, BigCommerce, NetSuite. There's no end really to some of the platforms that you can work with. And you need to bring all of those into one location and then be able to ship them efficiently to the customer. So the first part is that you would each have a different platform for each of those. So eBay, you'd have to log into your eBay account, log into your Amazon account, log into Shopify. And that obviously is time consuming to be able to bring everything in. Plus, then how do you manage the customer experience? The customer experience would be that, if you've got an order that's delayed for some reason, how are you going to then find them and interact with the customer in a streamlined fashion when you have to log into all these different locations to manage your customer contacts, etc. So that is what ShipStation does as a software. We bring in multiple different selling channels. This also works for a one-on-one selling channel environment. So if you were just working with eBay, then we can certainly assist. This automation side of things is where ShipStation comes in as well, because you would have to enter the names and addresses of every single label that you create into a carrier portal, which would then create tracking information that you would then put back into your selling channel and have to tell the customer that the order's on its way. If you imagine the timescale that it takes to do that across 1,000 orders, it isn't a scalable solution. So we basically fit that bill, and that's what we do as a software, and help you to efficiently manage your orders in the way that is going to be a lot quicker and easier for you to do, rather than spending hours and hours of days trying to input your label solution. So however you deliver, and this is another factor, which is something that as a seller you would need to consider. So there's a number of different channels that you can work with. Are you drop shipping your products? It's a massively growing market at the moment, to be drop shipping. Maybe you're not the one holding this inventory, or you don't have your own warehousing. ShipStation can also bring your orders into that. Or maybe you're selling part of your solution, but you're part of your orders, but you're not selling the other half, and you need to be able to manage that efficiently. So there's a number of partners we work with, print on demand, for example, for personalization, that helps us to be able to work with dropshippers. Then there's the warehouses themselves. Warehouses being your own warehouse, a warehouse being a third-party logistics company. Maybe you don't do your own fulfillment or want to do your own fulfillment, which is another thing that ShipStation has to partner with. And we work with a number of different third-party logistics companies and can do referrals to help you to bring your inventory into one location in a similar fashion to the way Amazon does with their Fulfilled by Amazon. So bringing your stock into another, but servicing your own website. So we also have stores. So stores doing click and collect. Obviously, the change in the pandemic, we've got some pretty big retailers who have moved over during that situation, that are trying to move away from bricks and mortar and moving into online businesses, and also, having click and collect within their store, which is a lot more convenient for customers, especially in these current times. And the exceptionally efficient piece. So this is our third partner arrangement, which fits in nicely with the new role that I'm doing, where we work with multiple different carriers. So how do you, as a business, manage to get your orders out to your customers in an efficient way when you've decided, which channels you're going to be, however you're going to deliver them, and to get them out at the end, which would be, maybe you're using Royal Mail for your light goods. Maybe you're having a next day delivery service with Amazon, or, there's a number of different carrier services that you can offer. Or you have very high-end expensive products that carry high insurance, and you need to have different options available to the customer. You might also want to have different options available within your basket as well. And you then need to manage that channel in a way that's going to be efficient for you, because not only have you got to manage multiple different selling channels, you've also now got to manage multiple different carriers, potentially different services to the customer. So even if you're just using one carrier, what do you do if it's next day delivery? Or if you're offering a standard option, or you want an upsell within your postage. So that is something that ShipStation can really help to tailor, and ultimately get the stock out to your customer at the end as quickly as possible. So that's a little bit about ShipStation. We're going to talk about the carrier market and how it's constructed. I think some of the biggest challenges that we see on a day-to-day basis is particularly for new providers, like how do they work as a new business to be able to launch? What is your business? How do we factor into that? Bear with me 1 second, and we just have a question that's come in. So the question is, how does ShipStation help sellers provide sustainable fulfillment? Is currently as important as convenience as customers? Of course. So the sustainable side of things is actually not something that ShipStation has to ultimately interact with. It's actually with the responsibility of the carriers. So this is the perfect question really for this time, because we're going to go into that a little bit more. In terms of sustainability, like in terms of recycling, etc., the postage label services, everything can be downloadable. We still need to obviously use paper, etc., to be able to generate that postage label, which goes to the box. But then there's, everything is, you don't need to use packing slips, you don't need to use picking lists, which are all available within the product. All of that information can be downloaded onto PDF and browsers if you need. And in terms of the carriers and their sustainability and moving things around, they're focusing on a day-to-day basis on looking at vehicles that are more sustainable. For example, DPD, they have great channels to be able for DPD local using electric vehicles. We, as a provider, want to work with each of those carriers. Is critical for us to be able to integrate in with as many people as possible. That's going to help you make that decision on what's right for your customer. So hopefully that answers the question for you. So to cover off a little on how the carrier market's constructed, we have B2B businesses, B2C, and C2X. You may have come across some of these terms before. Business to business will be, for businesses, it works slightly different to how it works with a B2C customer. So a B2B customer would have multiple parcels going to one location within that time. And therefore, they may have negotiated specialized rates where you have, consignment rates, for example, that may be a little bit cheaper when you're sending out more than one package. This also helps in with sustainability, because if you're sending multiple parcels to one location, then you're actually having one vehicle take that to the end location, rather than having numerous different vehicles coming to collect them on a day-to-day basis. So ShipStation has a multi-shipment option, and we work with the carriers to be able to work on a B2B rate with them, and also B2C, which would just be to your end customer, where it is singular parcels that are going out. So the whole purpose is to be able to bring your order into ShipStation. There, your order is visible to the customer. The customer would then be able to link into any carrier account that you have, which customer obviously being yourselves, link into the carriers that you choose to work with to fully automate that process, so that you can just with one click create that postage label, attach that to the box of the packaging. For the warehousing team, this can be quite a critical offering, because there are pick lists, warehouse locations that you need to be able to go and actually find where your inventory is held, to make it easier for them to be able to pick. So you had 1,000 orders in on that day, but 500 of them are the same product, then you don't want to be spending your time going to pick one order, coming back, going to pick another order, going back. You would know that there's 500 orders, and all of those can fit into the boxes that you've got laid out for the day, just helping your warehousing staff to scale a little bit quicker as well. Ultimately, in this day and age, it's very difficult to be able to just put more and more and more people onto the positions that they are within the warehouse. So ShipStation means that it removes the importance of having to make a decision about whether this parcel is international, whether it's UK, who do I send it with? They are spending more time creating labels, typing in names and addresses, and being able to fulfill orders, which takes a lot of time. So that is ultimately the purpose in the package. So B2C customers, that is the main part, obviously, that we have, with multiple different selling channels, linking in with both Amazon and all of the main carriers. One of the things that we're able to do, which can be a big help for new businesses, is recommend certain carriers that may be able to assist you with what it is that you're trying to do. So the last part of that would be C2X, which fits in very much with returns. We are focusing on this more and more. The returns piece is quite complex, but although, with the carrier market is growing and is something that we're looking to build on in the product in the future. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about one of my customers. So this is a clothing brand that came to ShipStation about just under a year ago when the pandemic hit. They are basically an online clothing brand, fast fashion, who were selling, just mainly it was fast fashion at that point. And they came to me on a certain morning where they had one of their masks that they featured. So they had, 5 fashion masks that they were selling, which were featured on ITV News. So there was also some big promotional campaigns that had gone in with Coronation Street. So they was actually featured on Coronation Street, and some of their the actors and actresses were actually wearing their masks. And with the feature that was taken on ITV that day, just meant that their orders went crazy. So from, what they were doing previously, around 100, 200 orders a day, were then dealing with over 5,000 orders plus that they needed to then service. They weren't expecting it to happen. And when it did happen, they then had to figure out a number of different challenges. So firstly, there was the fact they were working with Royal Mail for some of their deliveries, and then they also had their clothing brand. So obviously Royal Mail being a key player in terms of large letters services, etc. And so they had them on board, and then they also had DPD, which they were working with in terms of their clothing being more of a small parcel variety, and for their more expensive clothing that they were sending out. So they then had to bring all of this into one. They had to figure out how that they were going to send out these 5,000 orders, how they were going to automate the services they had. And they spoke with me on that morning, and we were able to get them set up and running so that they were able to service those orders within a little under a day. So it was very challenging, of course. You can imagine for them that how they were going to figure out a number of different things. Their warehousing, did they have enough staff? With ShipStation, we were able to set them up separate views, tell them, okay, this is your DPD orders, these are your next day delivery orders. We were able to automate everything for them so that they were able to then just go in, create and print those labels. One of the other challenges, which I'm sure customers like yourself will be well aware of at this point, which is Brexit and the changes that we've moved into. So they had a number of European orders. Now, this wasn't a focus for them at that point in time, but has been, which goes to show that the challenges with scaling your business doesn't just come from, isn't just something that you have on that one particular day. It also happens with situations like Brexit, where you have customs forms and declarations to complete, and there's all these different factors that you need to consider. Now, with ShipStation, we were able to fully automate that, experiencing rapid growth, and since then have been able to fully put everything in place that they needed. So I realised I may have been talking for some time. Is there anyone that had any questions?
So thank you, Claire, for that. I've got a few questions that have come in. So you mentioned Brexit. How did you have to change as a business because of Brexit, and how has it impacted your sellers? I'm sure merchants and sellers have got lots of stories to tell about the Brexit experience, but it'd be great to understand it from a ShipStation point of view.
Sure. So Yeah, definitely. Brexit has been a big key part in scalability for a lot of our clients. So um, there's a couple of things that we consider as a business that will definitely be able to assist. One of those is the customs forms that you need to complete. So there's understanding the rules, etc., that go into Brexit now, the duties and taxes you need to pay, for example, when the package arrives the other end. So these are all factors that need to be considered. How that affects the delivery experience as well for the customer if things are being held up. They see your end customer if things are being held up in customs. So we've had to build automation rules into place so that we can create customs declarations for you, so that you can add your harmonization codes, etc., things like that you would have at the customs checkout piece. And you can actually electronically send them over to the carriers that we work with, which means that it alleviates the time spent having to do that. I mean, ultimately, the main aim is to be able to scale your business, is to spend less time focusing on things like this, of creating forms and typing in addresses, etc., and actually being able to spend time focusing on the selling channels that you work with. So that's one area that we had to rapidly change with to be able to adapt to. And secondly, it's working with logistics companies. So as I mentioned before, the reason that we're going into other countries is because having the inventory close to the customer is important. So there may be instances where you actually want to use a fulfillment center in the Netherlands, in Germany, in France, meaning that you could still use ShipStation, still manage your orders from the UK, but be able to actually send that inventory and keep it closer to the customer to be able to offer, next day deliveries and things like that. So that's one area that we had to focus on quite heavily, and I'm sure it's creating a number of different challenges for customers moving forward. But hopefully that would be something that we could assist with at some point.
Fantastic. And as I said, I've probably a lot of sellers have got their own Brexit story, and it'd be great if you want to ask that question. Well, we've got Claire on the presentation. You touched on fulfillment there. We have a seller that we represent that, because the marketplace they were selling on, it was actually back markets, wouldn't enable UK stock. And they turned off nearly £1 million worth of sales overnight because of Brexit. Talk a bit more about the fulfillment piece, because I think a lot of sellers are looking for options, particularly where a lot of their business was in continental Europe.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a difficult challenge, of course, for everybody. I think the thing that's most crucial to this is that you have different countries which you need to support. Each country has their own carrier network. So what ShipStation have tried to do is to manage as many integrations as possible. Therefore, as a customer, you have the option to be able to decide who you would like to use. I mean, in terms of actually getting the orders out to the end customer, as long as you're using, if you're using a UK carrier service and we can connect in with most of those, then ultimately all you'll be doing is creating a customs declaration and sending it out. So one of the key things that we've had to consider is obviously who we work with, and to build as many carrier integrations as physically possible for you as a customer to be able to scale up. So I mean, there is a number of challenges, of course, that go with that, but ultimately I think the main thing is just to make a decision about which carriers you'd like to use, and then to build from there.
Great. We've just got a question come in, which is a great question. Is it ever too early for a business to start integrating and using ShipStation? Would you say that they get up to a certain size and then start looking at ShipStation as an option, or would they integrate it, as they start to launch in the different channels? It'd be great to get some advice from your experience, Claire.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, no, it's never too early. I mean, I know you'd expect me to say that, obviously working for ShipStation, but I mean, we do have a very scalable pricing method, if you like. I mean, without going too much into the pricing side of things, the whole purpose in the software is that it goes everything from a starter plan right the way up to an enterprise level, and it's able to grow with you. So as a customer, you're going to come across a number of different challenges. As I mentioned before, what happens if you're just selling with Amazon, or you just have your own website and then your brand really kicks off and you decide that, okay, well, I do want to start selling with, or did want to set up a brand piece with Amazon, for example, then how would you go about that? So the carriers directly have their own platforms. So do the selling channels have, links in directly to that. But this way you can actually keep everything in one place and you don't lose that scalability. So if you started quite early on, all your orders are in one location. As you add them on, you're not losing any of that history that you had previously. And so, the whole purpose really is to be able to make it as easy as possible for you to grow, and to do that without having to lose all of the work that you previously put in, or where your order's based, etc., etc. So no, it's never too early. And ultimately, really, the pricing can reflect that depending on which plans you need.
Great. One thing, as part of some of the things we do is integrating carriers to existing platforms. And one of the biggest challenges is trying to get, for example, DHL, UPS to talk to that platform. And that can be a holdup and involve a lot of people to make that happen. From what I understand, ShipStation is very easy to do that. Could you just talk us through that process and how long typically it would be to, let's say, integrate to Royal Mail or DHL or UPS or Hermes, for example?
Sure. So the whole purpose in the software is that we have gone and done the integrations directly with the carriers, directly with the selling channels, so that you wouldn't necessarily have to. So if you imagine the development cost of having to link into multiple different carriers, and you can, there's some instances, especially with third-party logistics companies, where they would build their own solution, and they would, pay DHL or DPD, etc., to be able to integrate into that platform and be able to generate those labels yourself. But, if you're a brand new business and you're starting out, then how would you do that yourself? And would you want to go and pay for those integration costs, etc.? So that's what we've done. We've built all those integrations direct with the carriers, where you would log into ShipStation. You have all of the tiles to connect your carrier to whichever carrier you would want to use. You select that, you add your username and details that you've set up directly with them. And that's it, you're connected. So we've done the pain, if you like, of having to do those integrations in the first place, so you as an end user doesn't have to. And the same on the selling channel side. So it just means that you have the option to be able to change carriers if you wanted to, if you add additional carriers on. That's the whole purpose really in the software, is to be able to give you the option to change around and be fluid with your business without having to change too much in terms of investment. So
and then talk about the integration to the different channels, because for example, Amazon's just released this year where you have to put a tracking number on the dispatches, and they're enforcing that in order to make sure that you're fulfilling within that timescale of handling time. How easy is ShipStation helping merchants to fulfill that criteria?
Yeah, sure. It's one of those things really in terms of managing separate portals, and that's, that really, again, it comes back to the purpose of the software. So when you have multiple different areas that you need to manage, for example, with Amazon, you would be creating a tracking link away from Amazon, and then you would have to be manually entering it into Amazon, and then Amazon would be sending out the notifications. And the same for your orders. If you've got your own website that you're looking after, you're going to create your tracking information somewhere else and then upload it. There are delivery metrics which need to be met with some of the marketplaces. Even, for example, untracked services like Royal Mail, you don't need to track the services with Royal Mail, but Royal Mail have moved to a method where you have something called a CRL code, which is in the barcode, and it tells the end customer when it's been delivered. So there's no tracking in between, but there is the information that says, okay, my parcel's been delivered through my letterbox now. And even that kind of information is something that Amazon have as a requirement. So just sending out things by post isn't a scalable way to do things anymore, because of the fact that they're insisting upon having this. So online postage is definitely something that's a key area of focus, and helping businesses to scale quickly, especially if they want to work within the terms of some of the marketplaces.
Great. Yeah, and those requirements will become more and more stricter as we see. So I think automation is the key here. So you don't miss and trigger one of those metrics on those marketplaces, as sellers will again tell their stories that you know, if tracking's updated later, that can cause nightmare with Amazon or eBay. We've got a great question come in about print on demand. It's become very popular since pandemic. Sellers can often run into problems with fulfillment for their print on demand businesses. Do you have any stories, case studies, or something you could share how print on demand businesses can thrive with ShipStation, Claire?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's something I actually hadn't come across until very recently. I think drop shipping is a massively growing business. You know, even to understand the challenges that you have to go through as a seller to be able to hold all of this stock, but to be able to you're potentially every day that you're holding on to it, potentially losing money. So drop shipping is a key area of focus. Print on demand is one of those businesses that I've come across, and that had recently a customer that was using them for their t-shirts, etc. So sending them off to print on demand to be able to fill. We have that integration direct with them, which means that customers are able to use that model. So ultimately what happens is the selling channel receives the order. That then comes into ShipStation. You still have visibility of the order. So although you're not actually fulfilling it yourself, you would want to have visibility on what's happening with the order. So, you know, it's still, the customer would still want to know what's going on with it as well. And they're going to come back to you. They're not going to come back to businesses like Print on Demand who are fulfilling that for you. So that's another area that ShipStation comes in. It's not necessarily just about posting shipping labels or creating shipping labels. It's about giving you visibility of where your orders are, so that you can then relay that information back to your customer. So connections to businesses like Print on Demand is something that we're trying to scale moving forward, so that, you know, you have the option to be able to not just worry about the fulfillment side yourself, but pass them over to somebody else who can do that for you.
Great, fantastic. You've got a long list of integrations if you look on your website, and both in the US and also in Europe. What if a particular seller wants to integrate to something that you don't have on your integration list? Could you just talk us through the options and the process around that, Claire?
Sure, and that's a really good question. So I mean, the main aim for us, of course, will be to prioritize as many integrations as we can. So as you know, we have to try to scale as a business as well, as much as everybody's dealing with those challenges. And we want to be able to give the most, you know, and the end user as many options as possible. But there is also the option to be able to use CSV files. So just try to, you know, how go into too much detail on the technicals of how it actually works within ShipStation. If you don't have a direct integration, you can upload your orders to a selling channel, or upload your orders to a carrier as well. This works really well for fulfillment centers. In fact, I had one recently. So actually what this fulfillment center is doing is pulling through orders in from multiple different places, and but they're receiving them in on a daily basis. So to be able to connect up, what they're doing is getting the customers to send a CSV file of their orders, because they don't need to use ShipStation. The fulfillment center is using ShipStation for the labels. So they get these Excel sheets that come over, they upload it to ShipStation. They've then got all of their orders and all of their customers' orders brought into one using this file, and able to generate the labels of ShipStation and let their customer know that that's already handled. So yeah, it's more about a visibility piece for both the end user.
Fantastic, great. So what I can take away from that, ShipStation can be very flexible around more bespoke things, utilizing files that can be going backwards and forwards then. So if you don't see the logo of the carrier that you integrate to on on the website, it's not a deal breaker there then?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, just something else that's become very keen as well, so from a number of different customers that I've been working with, subscription boxes. You can understand the need for being able to replenish orders. How does a customer then, get their virtual events and things like this to get those boxes out to people? It's becoming more and more mainstream. So we have to be able to offer that and make it easy for you as possible to be able to do that. So we've seen such a big uptake in the type of businesses we work with, and I'm sure everybody's trying to look for new ways to be able to get their name out there in times when you may not be able to be open. So
fantastic. You touched on with the case study about how fast it was to actually get them going. Is that a typical, let's be honest, Claire, is that a typical speed to actually using the system, and what barriers are there normally that you come across in order to slow that down, just so people that are thinking about ShipStation could be aware of them?
Yeah, so it can be fairly straightforward to set up. It really does depend on the size of the business. So for somebody that's a brand new business to get set up, I mean, there can be a different level of support that we offer, just in terms of talking you through what your options are. We do have some pay-as-you-go services for drop-off. That means that the customer doesn't need to have a carrier. If you're a brand new business and you don't know what your order capacities are going to be like, you can still use ShipStation, because you can take it down to the local post office and be able to still generate your labels at home. So that can be done very quickly. And then we have enterprise level customers. They're going to have a lot more complexity around that, working with multiple different carriers, etc. Just getting the products into ShipStation and having an initial setup is the part that takes some time, but you have an account manager that supports that anyway, just to help you get off the ground. And then once that's done, you're left to run do things yourself. So it generally does vary on the situation, but it can be turned around very quickly if needed.
I think I have set of merchants in ShipStation in the US, and to actually get them connected and get the couriers and the channels connected, it was literally done in an hour. But then the great thing about ShipStation, from my experience, is you can automate a lot and around the rules. So you need to invest time in building those rules, which you will then save time by just letting the automation kick in. So, I think, I know I asked the question, but I do know from personal experience, it is the shipping integration platform that I would choose there, and that's from personal experience. What is for the future of ShipStation? So you've got a very big foothold in the US, and I think it's 5-figure numbers of merchants, probably even more, that are using the technology, and you've been relatively new in Europe. What is in the future? What can you share with us from a group perspective for ShipStation, particularly in the European Union?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main objective for the moment is for us to be able to expand into Europe. So we have a lot of key relationships with the carriers, and also, just recognizing that Brexit may not be right for everybody in terms of holding inventory in the UK, so they may want to be able to move that around Europe. So we would definitely be looking to expand our 3PL network. So we don't offer fulfillment, but really excited to work with some European partners to be able to offer fulfillment potentially to our customers in the future, which would be nice. And then also that just means that you can actually link these platforms together by having them in other countries, means that you have the potential to be able to hold your stock wherever you want and still keep them in location in one order management software, if you like. Whereas at the moment, even then, trying to actually set up, if you wanted your inventory housed somewhere else, that can also create a challenge in you're back to the whole, I've got Amazon and eBay orders and you're trying to bring them into one. So we want to try to continue to offer the same thing that our customers are having to battle with on a daily basis as well, for us to be able to scale and offer the end solutions that we need. So that's probably going to be the key focus.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting because one of the routes for merchants was to actually utilize the Amazon FBA network in order to fulfill their European orders. And I do know that that's kind of been put on hold because of Brexit. I think that will come back. And if you've got stock in continental Europe, you can actually then utilize that. But across the water, it's still a problem there. But that does provide, that is expensive because you're paying Amazon a fee and you're also paying the marketplace a fee there as well. So I think that would be a game changer to utilize that one technology platform, ShipStation, to actually unify all those orders. That is very exciting. How are you going to be taking that by country? I know we've got the language barrier as well, and then the integration of the different localized carriers. When would you see in a timescale that would come to fruition, Claire, or is that kind of moving on pretty fast?
Yeah, it's moving on pretty fast. I mean, we have France, which is launched, and in terms of scaling up, there was always going to be a test phase of being able to decide when you're ready to go live in each locale. So it's hard to actually say what the timescales will look like, but just in terms of the objectives, obviously it means it would just be hiring in and looking for country-specific people that are able to represent us, that understand their marketplaces, and help to understand that market for our customers as well. And those that want to try to use ShipStation, it'd be good to know that they've got that leverage there with somebody that actually understands the industry. So that's just where I'm going to be moving forward.
Fantastic. We've got less than 5 minutes left, and we've got some great questions coming in. If you've got your final time to ask those questions, we've got lots coming in. Just before we move away from the fulfillment piece, because I think this is quite an exciting piece. Will that enable people as well if they want to tap into Australia and the US market? Is it just a European initiative, or are you going to be exploring in those different territories as well?
Yeah, well, we already have the presence there. Okay, so we have an office in Sydney. Our main office in the US is in Austin, and then we have an office in Canada as well. So they are focused. They're actually based in those locations. So for Europe, we tend to keep everything at the moment. We do have a team in Paris, in France. So we're looking to carry on with that demographic, but we will be looking to build out as much as we can, and it's all going to come down to what expansions the countries need. So how many carriers are in those countries, how many selling channels are growing, when we have key partnerships that we're always going to focus on, because that's the end user's most chosen, which is obviously we're going to be able to help us to help a lot more customers quicker. But that's the main plan, really.
Okay, fantastic. So we're coming towards the end of time, and I really, really enjoyed listening to your presentation and giving us some insights about what ShipStation has been doing and what's going to be happening in the future. If you were to give 3 key takeaways to the audience today to remember about ShipStation, what would those be? And how, what are the 3 key points where you can actually help sellers online?
Yeah. So key pieces to take away from this would be automation. So just being able to fully automate your order process, which is obviously going to be offering that scalability that you need. The carrier integrations we work with, giving the flexibility to be able to change carrier at some point if you need to, change, if you want to add more additional selling channels, that's going to be the third thing. So spend less time worrying about how you fulfill, and spend more time being able to actually input into what you want to do next with your business, what products you want to launch. Be excited about the side of things that you probably got into this industry for in the first place, rather than worrying too much about the actual fulfillment side, because that's where we can assist.
Absolutely. And I think from what I would also take away, it's easy to get set up. ShipStation's done a lot of the hard work for you, so you just need to link everything up, and then that allows you to work not in your business, but on your business as a merchant and entrepreneur. So I think, you know, and the pricing, you know, let's like Claire won't talk about the pricing, but as an independent person here, the pricing isn't going to break the bank as well. So even if you try it and you feel it's not for you, I think it's a low risk strategy from that point of view as well. Yeah. So I'd like to thank Claire for her time and also giving us insights about ShipStation. It is an awesome piece of software and technology, and I would encourage everybody to learn more about the ShipStation options. This brings us to the end of this session. We do have a break with lunch. I would encourage you to visit the networking areas within the Totem platform. Also the marketplace, there are the sponsors there. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.